Story 1. Now that I am an adult, I realize just how wonderful my father really is. Not just compared to others, but objectively an amazing father. He taught us hard life lessons while still protecting us. He taught us to be self-sufficient and independent, to work hard, and not to give up when things get challenging. He worked tirelessly to make sure we could go on vacation and experience life. He taught me to hunt, fish, fix a car, garden and grow my own vegetables, and how to care for livestock and other animals with compassion. However, he treated me more like a son than a daughter. I wish he had acknowledged that I am a girl and that it was okay for me to enjoy dressing up or to throw like a girl. I earned a full athletic scholarship to college partly because I spent so much time with the boys. My dad did not want me to be seen, only as a great female player, but as a great player in general. I think this affected my dating life. I am either too intimidating to strangers or viewed as one of the boys by people who know me. I feel I lost some of my feminine side because he was dismissive of my emotional side. I had to be tough and stoic. I suppose I should not complain. I just feel that if my dad had been less strict and treated me more like a daughter, I might fit in more and be able to get a date instead of always being seen as a bro. That said, I am thankful for the life skills he gave me and for the protective eye he still keeps on his baby girl. I am a 26-year-old woman. Update. I gained a lot of confidence from the positive responses, and now I have a date coming up with a man who does not know me or my friends. I get to make a first impression without being seen as one of the boys beforehand. Wish me luck. He seems kind and intelligent, and I am excited to see what happens. Even if it is a flop, it is a good step out of my passive ways. Story 2. My dad was an amazing and very special father. He encouraged our independence and our desire to learn about anything and everything, which many fathers forget to do. He focused on education, and as a result my brothers and I were reading very early, which led us to enjoy places like the Science Museum, the zoo, and any science program on television. He let us run wild as children because he knew how important it was to savor being kids. When I was little I made a mud pit in the backyard. We had a hole our Weimaraner dug that filled with water, so 3-year-old me thought it would make the perfect mud pit. After about half an hour of playing by myself, my dad came outside and saw me naked, covered in mud, in the pit. Where other parents might have been angry, he laughed and grabbed the camera. As we grew older, he supported our independence and hobbies. For my brothers, it was gaming. They turned their interest in gaming into a lifelong career. For me, it was theater, then science, and eventually wildlife. My dad wanted to be a biologist but never had the drive or money to finish college, so I used to teach him all about genetics and how the phylogenetic trees of various organisms had changed. He knew a lot but wanted to learn how science had changed and what the new concepts were. He outfitted me with field gear, and when we went camping or hiking together we flipped rocks and looked for herpetofauna. He helped me with a plant project a few years ago, and that was probably the most fun we had. He never discouraged our interests and passions, which is so important. I don't really have a point anymore. I just needed to write this out. My dad died 3 weeks ago very unexpectedly, and no man on earth could rival how amazing he was. He was truly responsible for our independence and wonder of the world, and I think more fathers should be like him. Dads, let your daughters and sons learn freedom. Let them explore the world, and make an effort to be interested in their interests no matter how strange or silly you think they might be. Let your kids be kids and do dumb things sometimes. Also, always let your daughter know that you have her back. Whatever stupid decision she makes, whatever trouble she runs into, whatever man she dates or gets involved with, you have her and you will be there for her when things fall apart. My dad was so good about that. Story 3. It is great that you want to spend time together, but when you invite your child to the garage to help with something, actually let them help. For example, my dad would be working on his boat engine and say, "Come help me with this." I would sit on a bucket for 20 minutes watching him in silence and then wander off out of boredom. Looking back, I appreciate that he wanted to spend time with me, but being present and being involved are different. Story 4. Treating every boy interested in your daughter as your enemy does both of you a disservice. My father was very overprotective. Anytime a boy had a crush on me, he was immediately added to my father's blacklist. even if he was perfectly kind and respectful. After a certain point, I stopped listening to my father's complaints. In my eyes, he had lost the right to give input about my relationships. Unfortunately, when I was 17, I became entangled in an abusive relationship. My father hated the man, but because he had disliked all my previous suitors, I did not interpret his concerns as legitimate. On top of that, because he was so busy trying to prevent me from having relationships, he never talked to me about what a healthy relationship looks like. Story 5. Unwanted sexual attention from grown men does not always come from strangers. It also comes from family friends. Pay attention to the behavior and comments of people around your children. My dad cut off a longtime friend after catching him leering at me while I was wearing a bathing suit at a pool party when I was 12. Story 6. Don't make comments about my friend's breasts or the small size of mine. Stop talking about teenagers' breasts, Jesus Christ. Story 7. Make sure she is not afraid to bring home the person she is dating. Encourage open communication about relationships, dating, and respect. If your daughter is afraid you will be waiting on the porch with a shotgun or that you will read the riot act to whomever she brings home, she is more likely to sneak around behind your back. It is not the threat of physical harm that is the issue. Most people would likely agree they have heard versions of this and laughed it off as a joke. It is the sense of doubt it creates in young women. The feeling that they are not capable of making good decisions on their own when it comes to the relationships they choose to pursue. We keep preaching that we want our daughters to feel empowered to make their own choices. It starts by removing the need for them to choose partners that meet your approval. Instead, empower them by teaching them how to navigate relationships and have the tough and uncomfortable conversations. Let them make a few bad decisions so they can learn to recognize what healthy interaction with men looks like. My dad is a great guy. He just said the things that dads were supposed to say 20 or more years ago. It always made me uncomfortable, but I did not know how to express myself. That is what is so great about this discussion. When you know better, you do better. Story 8. How to put hair into ponytails and brush long hair. Just thinking about it 20 years later makes my scalp hurt. Also, how to include the daughter in stereotypically male housework. I can cook and load the dishwasher like my life depends on it, but I cannot do maintenance tasks such as putting up a picture frame or unclogging a sink. Story 9. If you spend a significant part of your daughter's childhood talking about how much better and easier a son would be to raise, do not be surprised when your daughter grows up confiding almost exclusively in her mother and not in you. Story 10. My dad did a pretty good job raising me as a single father. I am pretty sure my stepmother contributed nothing to my upbringing. The only thing he could have done better was to be more knowledgeable about what he called female issues. He did not really understand periods, cramps, and related matters because when he was growing up he was not taught about them, and men were not expected to learn. He thought it was icky. Story 11. When you do something wrong, apologize. Do not ignore what we just fought about and then act like our friend 15 minutes later. Ignoring the problem hurts and makes us angry, and we will not want to be friends. Most of my friends and I have experienced this issue with our fathers. The worst thing is asking someone else to apologize and fix things for you. My father has asked me to be a middleman for my younger sister. A friend was asked by her father to do the same, and others said their fathers sent their mothers. It does not make things better and often causes the middleman to lose respect for you. Respect us as people and apologize. Story 12. It does not make you look weak to show affection once in a while. My dad hardly ever hugged us or said he loved us. Story 13. How to build and support healthy self-esteem and lifestyle habits. The things you say and the way you treat her can leave a lasting impression on your daughter. I was a latchkey kid in an Asian household filled with cheap convenience foods, such as 3-for-1 hot dog bao buns and Chinese crackers, and there was little money for activities outside of watching television at home. I grew up overweight and uninformed about healthy lifestyle habits. Since my tween years, my dad was constantly on me about my body and told me bluntly that I would never find a boyfriend. If he saw me in a t-shirt or shorts, he would comment on how big my arms or thighs looked. I am now in my late 20s and still refuse to wear tank tops, short sleeves, skirts, dresses, or shorts because of that idea that has been ingrained in my thinking. The association between being overweight and being single still has a strong hold on my mind. My dad passed away last year from his own struggles with his health, including cancer, diabetes, and hypertension. Since then, I have made lifestyle changes and started therapy. I am about halfway to my target weight and I have discovered a love for hiking, spin classes, and yoga. Building self-esteem through cognitive reframing and positive self-talk has been the hardest struggle of all. Story 14. Do not assume your daughter will not be interested in your activities because they are not stereotypically girly, or because when she was a small child she did not want to try them. Not wanting to go hiking or fishing at age 5 does not mean she will never want to do those things. Keep trying to involve her in your life. Otherwise, you teach her not to share parts of herself and you lose the chance to bond over something you love. Story 15. When your daughter is going through puberty and starts her period, do not dismiss what she is experiencing. New hormones affect mood and she may be in pain. Pain can make anyone irritable, but do not attribute every instance of anger or a bad mood to her period. Her mother may not experience severe symptoms, or your wife may have learned to manage them. Your daughter has not. Be thoughtful and help her learn ways to manage her symptoms. If she is in significant pain and it does not improve, take her to a doctor. It may be nothing, but she could have endometriosis or ovarian cysts. Advocate for her at the doctor. Many women have difficulty finding clinicians who will listen to reports of pain, and it is very hard to advocate for yourself when you are only 14 and vomiting from pain. Story 16. My dad is awesome. I remember him telling me once that the best thing a father can do for his daughter is love and respect her mother. Story 17. Do not be scared of having your picture taken. If your daughter wants to take pictures of you, or especially with you, let her. My father died when I was 13 years old, and I realized that his avoiding the camera left me with only a handful of photos. He was not in any of our home videos. You do not realize how important these memories can be until you cannot make new ones. Story 18. It is best to have a personal bond with your father. A hobby or activity that is just the two of you, no matter how small, and not him only being present when the whole family is together. When our outdoor cats got ticks, I would quickly alert my father and we removed them together. For him, it was a chore. For me, it was the one thing we did together. Story 19. Not every instance of my anger or sadness was because it was that time of the month. My dad is a great guy, but he used to bring that up, even jokingly, way too often. Story 20. We take everything he says to heart, and he must be kind. His words can leave deep wounds that stay with her for a lifetime. Story 21. Some men and boys are perfectly decent when other men are present but are not nice to women and girls when no other men are around. Believe your daughter and other women about their lived experiences, even if you did not witness them yourself. If your daughter grows up hearing you say that your mother and sister were clearly overreacting when they said your childhood neighbor was creepy because he was always perfectly decent to you, she will not come to you if your neighbor is creepy to her when you are not around. Story 22. Our standards for how we expect to be treated by men come from how they treat our mothers. Show her kindness and we will expect kindness. Treat her poorly and we assume that such treatment is normal. Edit my first Reddit gold. Thank you, stranger. To everyone else, I am glad this may have given some of you insight into why you or a loved one are the way you are. This applies to all genders and family dynamics. Story 23. I am not sure about girls in general. To me, I would rather have had a dad who was there than a dad who was successful and a workaholic. When your dad is gone, you remember the silly little things. The bedtime stories he told you, playing with you on the beach, having ice cream together. Be a father who is present in your daughter's life. Play with her when she is small. Tell her stories. When she is older, listen to her. Take an interest in her hobbies and in her life, even if they seem silly. That is all anyone can ask. Story 24. I have the most wonderful father in the world. This post is not about things I wish he knew, but about things he did that were awesome while I was growing up, since I am seeing a lot of dads with little girls reading this. My dad never hesitated to do girly things with me. He was the one who took me school shopping. We often stopped at Starbucks and then picked up chocolate-covered strawberries afterward. He fixed my hair for school and painted my nails. I wanted a head full of tiny braids in the 1990s, and he spent hours of a Saturday afternoon braiding. We played with Barbies, he came up with storylines and put effort into them. On the other hand, he did not keep me from doing tomboy things. I raised baby calves, helped him wash cars, and worked on the lawnmower. When I was little, we had daddy-daughter dates and went to Chuck E. Cheese or mini golf. In middle school and high school, we went to the pool together, lay out, and talked. A few years ago, we got tickets to see Miley Cyrus on her Bangers tour, drank together, and had the best time. He was always patient about my self-esteem. He helped me lose weight in middle school, waited for hours while I got ready, and never commented except to compliment me. The biggest thing he did, and still does, is encourage my independence. He helped me through school and constantly reminded me that I am a strong woman and that I never have to get married if I do not want to. My mother used to put pressure on me to settle down. He is my friend as well as my father, and I am forever thankful for him. Edit my first gold. Thank you, I did not expect that. Thank you for the comments. I am going to send my dad this post so he can see the response and how special he is. I am incredibly lucky to have him, and I tell him how much I appreciate him all the time. My first big tattoo was a portrait of us together, and I think he will love seeing this. To all the dads who said they hope to be like my dad, if you try to be, you will be. He put effort into our relationship, and that is what matters. Story 25. This is for parents, but it especially applies to fathers and daughters. Her feelings are real and valid. The problem she is sobbing about, whether it is a boy, a fight with a friend, or something else, may seem trivial or silly to you, but those feelings are very important to her right now. In 10 years, you can tease her about Jimmy from science class who she thought liked her but who ended up asking her friend Alice to the dance. Now is not the time. Do not belittle her. Listen to her, ask questions, and learn about her life. It may seem boring to you, but my father listened to me. He remembered my friends' names and asked me about them. He asked me seriously what I wanted for the future. I am 25 now and I still confide in my father. He calls me just to chat. I tell him about my feelings and I ask him about his. It only takes one mean joke to put that wall up, and it is very hard to take down. This applies to sons and to other relationships as well. Treat people's feelings as valid. This does not mean you let your child throw tantrums in public or break things because they are upset. Teach your child healthy ways to cope with their feelings, but do not tell them they should not feel their emotions or shut them down by calling them babyish or immature for crying. The rest of the world will try to harden children and tell them to get over it. Do not be that person. Let yourself be the person they can feel fully around. Story 26. Your children are always more important than your second or third wife. Edit. Thank you for the gold. Story 27. Girls are not delicate little creatures who can't do anything. I always wanted to be an auto mechanic and work on cars, but he never let me. He said girls couldn't do men's jobs because they would cause drama on job sites when the men worried about sleeping with them. Now I often have car trouble and have to pay a lot to get a mechanic to fix simple things because he wouldn't show me how to fix them. I grew up before the internet, so learning from online videos was not an option. YouTube is great now, but it still feels intimidating for me to try because of the attitude I faced as a girl in my household. Story 28. I do not have a bond with my dad. At best, he's like a cool uncle. When I was in middle school, I stayed with him a lot because his house was right next to my school. He told me I only got my period because my friends had it and I wanted to be like them. It was not all bad. For some reason, he thought pads and tampons cost $40, so he gave me $50 every month when I got my period until my mom ratted me out. Edit. Someone called me out for not answering the question. My answer is know about periods and what a girl goes through during puberty. It is brutal. Watch Big Mouth on Netflix. Just kidding, do not watch it. Story 29. If we agree with our mothers or other female family members in a conversation or disagreement, it is not because we do not respect you. Please recognize that we have our own minds and can form our own opinions. My father always says that I have been brainwashed by my mother or that I am disrespecting him when I disagree, even about insignificant things. That is very hurtful because neither is true. Story 30. I wish my dad had understood premenstrual syndrome and period symptoms. He never wanted us, his 3 daughters, to complain about our periods or to use cramps as an excuse to stay home from school. He would say that millions of women have periods and are still able to go to school and work. I thought my debilitating periods and unbearable cramps were normal and that I needed to just suck it up. As adults, my sisters and I each discovered that our periods were not normal. We have endometriosis, which not only left us in terrible pain each month but also reduced our fertility. Taught to shut up and bear it. None of us told our gynecologists about our severe period symptoms, and we never sought birth control to help mitigate the damage to our bodies. Now 2 of the 3 of us have had to undergo in vitro fertilization to have children. My youngest sister assumes she will have to go through the same if she ever chooses to have kids. After my diagnosis and fertility treatments, I was able to start hormonal birth control to help manage the pain. If I had talked to my gynecologist much earlier and started birth control, I could have been living pain-free and possibly preserved my fertility. I know without a doubt that I will advocate for my daughter as she gets older if she shows any sign of endometriosis. Story 31. We can be very sensitive about our bodies and appearance once we become aware of them. Story 32. If you tell your 8-year-old she is too chubby to wear something, it will stick in her mind forever. Choose your words wisely and remember that children of all sizes have worth. Story 33. I love my dad. We have a great relationship, and he has always believed in my abilities. However, when you let your 10-year-old son have more freedom to ride bikes far from home, go to the store alone, and take risks than your 13-year-old daughter for no other reason than her gender, she is likely to be very angry and spend the next 10 years rejecting all things feminine because you have convinced her that being female means being weak and vulnerable. Masculinity does not equal strength and maturity. Femininity does not equal weakness and gullibility. Took a long time, but he recognizes that now. Story 34. I would have liked my father to realize that the way he conducted himself with women, whether his wives, girlfriends, or the women he worked with, has shaped how I perceive men. He is great in many ways, but he is not faithful and does not hide it well. It has made me extremely mistrusting of men in general, something I am working on, and it makes me sad for him and for the woman of the hour, as he put it. Story 35. Read a book about female bodies, specifically menstruation. Stop acting like pads and tampons will kill you if you see, touch, or, God forbid, buy them. Girls are starting their periods much earlier than they used to, and they are going to need support. Luckily, my father talked about it with my mother and then my older sister, so he was pretty chill. I remember a friend who had to keep her supplies hidden in her room while her father yelled at her for not holding it and staining a car seat. Story 36. I guess I kind of consider myself a daddy's girl, so here are all the things I'd probably tell him now. All those times you just accepted things that were girly without ever drawing attention to them really went a long way toward helping me build a healthy perception of men. You never expressed disdain or machismo when I asked for your help untangling my Barbie's hair or prodding you with magic fairy wands. You never hesitated to teach me practical skills, and you never attributed gender to them. It was always, come over here and let me show you how to snake the drain, because you're going to need to do this. By the way, Dad, I snaked my first drain all on my own last month. I'm so glad you taught me. Thank you for bailing me out when I was in a pinch, no questions asked. No guilting, no attempts to squeeze out information. I felt like I could come to you with any dilemma. This took a load off my shoulders because Mom is so reactive and tends to freak out first and maybe resolve things later. You respect me, which makes me respect you even more. When I call you out on bullshit, you actually own up and reflect. You don't deflect back on me and pull the, I'm the parent and know better than you spiel. You actually took the time to sit and watch my cartoons or attempt to understand my video games and other hobbies. Mom always turned up her nose. You didn't. Do you know how awesome it is to watch your dad actually laugh at the cartoon your mother just dismissed as dumb minutes before? So gratifying. All those times you went shopping for groceries and picked up women's sanitary supplies without any hesitation, even if you did affectionately rename the long super maxi pads low-salt maxis. Thank you for all those secret times you let me pick something out of the vending machine to eat when we were on trips together. You knew Mom would never allow it. You take great pride in embarrassing me, but you know exactly where to draw the line so it's endearingly goofy. not genuinely embarrassing. You know your audience and play to it. I feel no shame when my friends or my now fiancé are around you. It's okay if your hands were too callous to properly tie my ballet skirt before classes. I could tie it myself, but I didn't tell you at the time because I knew it made you happy to help me. So don't be embarrassed because the fabric kept snagging on your calluses. I wish you took your dental hygiene more seriously. I think your lax attitude and seeing you lose a lot of your teeth didn't set the best example for my sister while we were growing up. I realize closing with a comment about my dad's flossing habits is kind of lame. It was stream of consciousness. I'm getting married in the fall and have been planning to write letters to my parents separately. So many of the points I made here I already want to share with him. He's my hero. Just in case people are worried, I adore my mom and we're really close. This probably makes her sound like a buzzkill, but I could absolutely spend all day writing how incredible she is too. Also, I called my dad and the first thing he said when he picked up was, "Oh good, I was hoping you'd call." I picked a song for our father-daughter dance at your wedding. I was sure to tell him how I felt. Story 37. I have a 6-year-old and only recently realized I am as clueless as a man can be about women. I do not have many female relatives and have only had male friends, so this is important. Story 38. I believed I deserved just as much freedom as my younger brothers and should have been treated the same way. It was never a big deal for them to go out with their friends or be intimate with their girlfriends, but if I did, I was in the wrong. It was a very old-school mentality. Story 39. Don't tell them that having eating disorders is better than being fat. Story 40. How awful it is to feel ugly and the measures we take to avoid it. This did not become a problem until I was older, but my father would always get really angry when I wanted to leave the house looking good. My brother would just put on random clothes, while I wanted to wear nice outfits and apply makeup. He would accuse me of being superficial. In reality, appearance affects how seriously we are taken and how we are treated. Even if you think your daughter is fine and has nothing to worry about, most people, especially men, may not see it that way. Story 41. If you want someone to respect you, you have to go first. My parents, especially my father, would patiently explain that my feelings and desires were silly because they did not share them, yet they expected me to prioritize theirs. If you want her to be polite to your boring friends, be polite to hers. If you do not want her wearing a lip ring to the company picnic, do not wear socks with Crocs when you pick her up at school. If you are poor and she must wear hand-me-down clothes, buy your clothes at the thrift shop. Story 42. Learn to control your temper and solve problems instead. Yes, I accidentally took your car keys to my speech meet. I'm so sorry and will try to find you a ride to work. Please do not scream at me over the phone for 30 minutes calling me a worthless piece of shit. Understand that in the teen years we are already very self-conscious. Even joking about a pimple or about eating too much dessert can have a huge, lasting effect on self-esteem. Apologize when you make a mistake or overreact. My dad would seem sorry but never actually apologize. That made me lose respect for him, and after a while I completely ignored his punishments and yelling. Story 43. We want to learn how to be handy, too. Maybe I would like to throw a ball around with you, even though I am a girl. Story 44. Honestly, don't try to stick us in pink and blue boxes. Some girls like fart jokes just as much as princess dresses. Story 45. Single custodial father of 3 teenage daughters. 1. Don't let them attach their value to their appearance. Let them be pretty and tell them when they make an effort. For example, by saying, "I can see you dressed up today. You look very pretty." That should not be your go-to compliment. Praise their accomplishments, their work, their intellect, and their effort. Do not praise them for something they cannot control. This gives them the power to improve themselves and makes them less vulnerable to someone who only flatters them. 2. Teach them how to lose. As much as you may not want your children to come up short, let them. Then show them that winning requires harder work. They will face loss in life, whether in promotions, sports contests, or relationships. Losses can break them if they do not know how to handle them. Acknowledge the defeat. Validate their feelings, but do not let them give up. Have them acknowledge their part in the loss without blaming them, and then show them ways to get better. This teaches that a loss does not define them, that winning takes hard work, and it empowers them to decide if they are willing to put in the work to win. 3. Be protective, not restrictive. Children learn early that the things they are told to abstain from are often more tempting. Do not simply say do not drink, no sex, no drugs. They are likely to experiment at some point, so set goals and boundaries for them to reach before experimenting. I learned this from an ex-girlfriend. There is a time and place to experiment with alcohol, sex, and marijuana, and that is often college. This gives you time to discuss these topics in advance, increases the chance they will get to college, and ensures they have most, if not all, of the information ahead of time. Story 46. I am worth something. Being a woman does not make me worthless. Having different interests and abilities does not make me worthless. Maybe I cannot carry on the family name, but that does not make me worthless. I deserved love, respect, and his time, but I did not receive them. Story 47. Commenting on their weight is not great for their self-esteem. She is already being picked on at school. She does not need you to add to it. Story 48. You need to teach by example. Do not preach things you do not do. Always apologize if you think you said or did something that hurt her feelings. This is very important. Give her privacy. My bedroom door or my belongings were threatened with removal. It was horrible and I felt like I was in jail. Compliment her on things she can control, such as big achievements or good test scores, and also tell her she is beautiful. I never received that. Pay attention to her interests and ask about them. Make sure she has opportunities. For example, if she is interested in something at 8 or 9 years old, she cannot sign herself up for a team or lessons. Remember that one day she will be an adult, and you need to prepare her while she is a teen. Treat her as an emotionally developing person, not a 4-year-old. Teach her how to have calm, stable discussions that reach compromises instead of screaming arguments, and teach her how to cook healthy food for herself. Story 49. Forcing his beliefs on his daughters and using fear to discipline them will not work in the long run and may damage their perception of men. Story 50. There is a place between interrogation and silence. It is called conversation. Now, do not tell me that once I decide to let a boy do something, I am stuck letting him do that forever. Now, women are not seen as less classy because they curse. Story 51. I don't know how this applies to daughters in general, but not everything he does has to be aimed at making me better than he is when I reach his age. I am not a personal pet project to work on during his off hours. He does not need to exercise parental authority the way he does as a boss. I am his daughter. I will respect him, even if he does not approach me with an intimidating, authoritative, angry manner. When he comes down on me as if I were an employee who needs a firm, impersonal scolding, it makes it harder for me to communicate and relate to him. I know my interests are not always interesting to him, but I can tell when he is not listening, and it hurts. Story 52. Although I am a tomboy who likes to be pretty, sometimes I do not want to work on cars. I always felt like I was letting him down if I said no, so I would help anyway. Some days I did not want to get dirty or be covered in oil and grease, and he could not understand why I sometimes did not want to help. Story 53. Just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I'm a natural housewife capable of keeping the whole house spotless by myself. My father was raised by the quintessential 1960s housewife. My grandmother worked tirelessly to keep her house clean, do the laundry, fold it, put it away, and make all the beds every single day. Caused tension. At times that I was messy and disorganized by nature, especially since my mother had passed away when I was 11 and I was the only girl in the house. My father could not understand why I could not keep the house as sparkling and spotless as my grandmother did. He was a very good father in many ways. This was the biggest hang-up we had. Story 54. Always knock and wait before entering my room. One time in high school I was applying sunscreen before putting on a swimsuit, so I was naked. He gave a single cursory knock before opening the door. It was horrifically embarrassing. Story 55. Casual misogyny at home toward other women will cause your daughter to internalize those attitudes. My father never took an interest in our personal lives or tried to connect with us on a deeper level. We, especially me because I was a girl, were treated like trophies he could show off. Any problems we had were left to my mother. She was the reason we did so well, but my father always took the credit both inside and outside the home. I can understand that kids do not always have interesting hobbies, but he never even tried. Now he is surprised that we do not talk to him about anything and go straight to our mother. He is angry that neither of us puts effort into our relationship with him. What can I say? You reap what you sow. Story 56. Your daughter having a boyfriend is not the end of the world. Do not treat him with hatred or apply different rules to your children based on their gender. Story 57. Please do not constantly comment on my weight. My parents are both overweight or obese, and they worried about that for me. They would comment when I gained or lost weight, and I became very self-conscious. I was also afraid of suddenly gaining 200 pounds, as I thought they had. So from 6th grade to 9th grade I starved myself. I did not start eating normally until my 3rd year of college. I ended up gaining 30 pounds when I stopped starving or began forgetting to eat, and I still struggle with nutrition. So better eating habits and quality time are important. Sometimes my dad was so busy that he would give me money and tell me to use it to treat my friends when I wanted to hang out with him. He might have thought that starting in 8th grade I would be embarrassed to be seen with him or would prefer spending time with friends, but I love hanging out with him. I cannot wait to do our cheesy father-daughter dance together on Friday. Story 58. Things you say to your little girls, stick with them. Do not make jokes about wishing they had been born a boy or asking what you are supposed to do with a daughter. Make sure your daughters know that their gender does not make them less valuable to you or to the world. Story 59. How you treat my mom is how I will expect to be treated in a relationship. It is why every relationship I have been in until now has been heavily abusive. If you choose poker over me, I will choose my life over you. Story 60. I wish he had known that girls grow up and are attracted to men like their fathers, and that sometimes daughters pay for their father's sins. He could have been the first example of a great man, not just a good father who cried when his divorce from my mother was finalized because he felt he had failed. The black eye I received from my ex looked familiar. Story 61. My dad was the best person I have ever met. He had 5 daughters before me, so he had already learned almost everything about girls by the time I came along. Still, he managed to make each of us feel like his favorite. When I was about 12 and struggling with self-esteem, he noticed. He gave me compliments every time he walked in the door. He said he kept a baseball bat in his closet because he had the most beautiful daughters and he would not let the losers near us. He always knew when I was emotional or angry and would make me play the piano for him because that was my therapy. I hated it sometimes, but I always felt better afterward. He would ask me to sit on the couch and talk. He taught me to waltz, to chop an onion properly, and that I was worth far more than my insecurities said. He died when I was 16, and it has taken a long time to move past the anger. I honestly hated him for a while for leaving me. Now I have bittersweet memories, and I would not trade them for anything. Though he was not perfect, I would not change a single thing about our relationship. Sometimes he did not understand, but looking back, he knew much more than I gave him credit for. I watched him learn, and I appreciate that he learned for his girls. He tried to do things we would enjoy. I cannot count how many times we watched and of Green Gables because I wanted to. He would ask me to read to him so he could close his eyes after a long day. He was often asleep while I read, but he fostered my love of books along with many other things. My favorite thing he did was listen. He let me go on and on about the girl in my class who said my shoes were ugly, and when I finished he would give me this look and ask why I thought she said those things, then wait for my answer. He made me consider other perspectives. He taught me to empathize and to realize that everyone has something going on in their lives. I only hope that someday I can be as wise as he was, and if I have children, I hope they have a father half as wonderful. Story 62. Reading these, I am sorry that so many people had dads who were not there enough. I want to hear more, even though it's hard to read. I don't want to make these mistakes. Story 63. The best way to deal with our hair is not to scrape it back into a tight ponytail and then slather it with hair gel. Story 64. This is for my sister. A girl whose body developed quickly is not slutty just because she has large breasts and hips. I was very skinny in high school and was allowed to wear whatever I wanted, even though I was sexually active and went to parties. My sister was shy and studious, and my father wanted her to wear baggy clothes simply because she was shapely. Every shopping trip I grabbed whatever I wanted, but she had to come out and do a full turn in every outfit for my father to tell her she looked promiscuous and insist on baggier clothes. These were just jeans and t-shirts that fit perfectly, but you cannot hide D-cup breasts, a tiny waist, and wide hips. Meanwhile, I wore a tank top because I was as flat-chested as a 13-year-old boy. Story 65. No matter how worried you are, never read her diary. If there is something you are worried about, try talking to her instead. I love my father, but there is a small kernel of resentment about that act from 30 years ago. Story 66. Treating both daughters equally, while wonderful, does not mean buying them exactly the same gifts for Christmas and birthdays, especially when my sister is 6 years older than I am. Story 67. Cooking and cleaning abilities are not innate. We should not have to take care of you or learn as children that you need care. We are not constantly on our periods. If we are upset, there may be a legitimate reason. If you do not want your daughter to be with the wrong partners and have a bad life, show her what a good partnership looks like. Respect her. Show her how a man should treat a woman or how a woman should treat a woman. If that is what she wants, respect it even if you do not. This sets the tone for her life and could put her on a harmful course. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.